There we go. Can everybody see that?
Exchequer continuing ed, yes.
Okay, perfect. That's where I want to be. Okay, so I am Catalina. I am a former Middle Kingdom Exchequer. I am currently a deputy to the Middle Kingdom Exchequer in a couple different capacities, and I am handing off my North Oakland regional position to Baroness Onharid, who joined me here today. So we're gonna dive right in, and this continuing education class for Exchequers is focusing on reports. So all of the different types of reports, including event reports, monthly reports, domesdays, and a couple of the other forms that sometimes we end up utilizing as Exchequers. So we're going to dive into events first because that's one of the easiest places to start. Obviously, events is where a lot of our income comes from.
Not for the next 6 months.
So for the event report, the first thing you do for an event, the event report is actually a 3-page workbook, Excel spreadsheet workbook, and it has 3 pages in it. And the first page is so this is the event report, and the first page is the budget. And this budget is developed by the Exchequer and then approved by the financial committee. And actually the budget is developed by the Exchequer in conjunction and collaboration with the event steward and the feast steward. So you are budgeting for break-even attendance, expected attendance, the different expenses that you're going to need to handle for this particular event. And all of these, if you can see the budget expenses here on the side, all of those correspond with expenses that are also in your general ledger and in your monthly reports. So these will get transferred to those line items. This is a budget. So what that means is you don't have to stick to it absolutely. There may be changes that occurred in the course of planning the event. Can you change a budget? Absolutely. You just have to go back to the financial committee and say, hey, I have a change that I'm expecting. I need you to approve this additional cost. Budgets are made to be flexible documents. They are an expectation and your best guess, and they can be altered all the way up through the event with the approval of your financial committee. Please keep that in mind. A lot of people I've heard over the years, well, we had a budget and so we couldn't do anything else. No. Budgets can be changed with the approval of the financial committee. As you can see down here, you go from the budget. Some of these cells that you enter data into then automatically import into your event report. So if you put a budget item over here that says that your expected attendance, that your gate fee, let's say your registration fee, pre-registration is $8 and your gate fee is $10. Okay, your reserve, which is the minimum that you're expecting, say $50. Pay at the gate, let's hope you get another maybe 60 people. You can see your calculations for your budget are being made over here. Okay, break even, you're going to calculate these numbers depending on what you need to see at the gate and for feast in order to not make any money and not lose any money. those numbers then do get transferred over to your event report, or should. And I don't see them moving over, but they will as you fill in the rest of the report. Even if they don't, your numbers from your budget go in your report. This is your actual. So what actually happened? How many reserved feasts did you anticipate? How many did they actually attend? That's your income. Fee at the gate, how many actually showed up at the gate, your total gate income. If there's any refunds, those go in down here. They total over here. This creates your report for you. All of the calculation cells should end up with the numbers so that you know at the end what your actual expenses were and what your actual income was. You'll see these expense payments, they should then, anything over here, any of these numbers in expense payments should correspond to a receipt. There is no such thing as petty cash. It goes out in a check, it then comes back in a receipt. Okay, if that's an advance, or it can be a reimbursement, but these are receipt numbers. You'll see down here, you see non-member surcharge, that should say registration, but the forms unfortunately haven't been updated by the SCA as of yet. So these, how many of actual adult attendees showed up, how many of them were non-members, that times 5 gives you that NMR number. Okay, was there a profit split? If this is a local group event, you're not going to have that profit split. Okay, if it's a kingdom event, you will have a profit split unless there's an extraordinary circumstance. And different kingdom events have different kingdom profit splits. They are outlined in the financial policies and in kingdom law. I'm not going to go through every one of them, but they can range from 50 cents a person, adult person, for rum, to 25% for a minor event and 50% for a major event. Okay, then you have your approvals here. These are printed off and then signed. Your Seneschal, Exchequer, the event stewards all sign this saying that this information is correct, or should be signing these. Okay, the information that you have put into this actual event report then flows through to your NMR report. This report is emailed or printed out and sent to the Kingdom Exchequer for the non-member registration fees. Okay, this report plus the attending check must be sent to the Kingdom Exchequer within 10 business days of the close of the event. So my group has a small event every year called Brawl for the Crooked at the Crooked Dragon. It happens on a Saturday. Within 10 business days. So my event ended on Saturday. I then have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for that check and report to get to Baroness Eilis, who is the current Kingdom Exchequer. Okay. We then, as the kingdom, report up to the society. They are not flexible about their due dates. They really like to have their reports and their money on time. And they get a little grumpy when we don't do that. And then they want us to get grumpy with you as local group exchequers. So in order to prevent that chain of grumpy, we would really, really appreciate it if you can follow the deadline, which is 10 business days after the close of your event. I think I've said that enough now. Okay, so we go, that is your event report system. There are other forms that might go with this event report. By the way, your event reports, including the budget and the after action report, are sent to the regional exchequer within 30 calendar days, not 30 business days, 30 calendar days. They keep a copy of your report in their Google Drive for their records, and you keep a copy in your records in your Google Drive that is provided by the Middle Kingdom. Okay. In addition to the basic budget report and NMR form, you will have cash control reports. Cash control is very important. This shows who has handled money. Okay, so you can see in this screen, you will have the event name, the hosting group, the date, your fees, the name of your exchequer, and the name of your event steward. You have gotten your beginning monies by writing a check to a person that has two signatures on the check that are not the person that the check was written to. So if my lunch tavern person or my gate person, let's say that's my friend Thorsel, I write a check to him. Thorsel cannot be one of the people who has signed the check to himself. This does not work. You also cannot just withdraw cash from the bank and give it to him. It must be written to a person. That person gets the money through the check, through the bank, and then lists the beginning here. So how many of the bills were ones? And then multiply by 1 and you get your total amount. How many of the bills were 5s, 10s, 20s, etc. for your total starting cash box amount. Afterwards, at the end of the day, then you count down and you once again fill that out so that you know how much is supposed to be down here. Your end count, yours minus your start count, gives you how much money you brought in at the gate. And you're in, so total funds, event income, and maybe somebody threw in an extra $5. That's a donation. Okay, this report is then, all of this is counted by 2 to 3 non-related individuals who do not reside in the same household, nor are they closely related. And then it is signed and it goes with the event report. Okay. Then this event report is the same as the same form that I showed you from the event budget, since it's a 3-pager. It used to be separate reports. I prefer the 3-pager because it just flows through nicely. Okay, fundraisers use the same forms as events. There's not a separate fundraiser event form. Okay, remember that fundraisers are anything that is not an event, not a donation. So a lunch tavern that is not paid for within the registration fees at the gate or pre-registration is a fundraiser. If you have a silent auction, that's a fundraiser. Okay. We do not have raffles. We do not have online auctions. Those are verboten, forbidden, not allowed. So you will not fill out an event report for them because you will not have them. Okay? Silent auctions at an event are still permitted. You would use this same form for that. Okay? All right. So after the event, you're going to use that. You're just going to fill out that document that we already showed you. Forgive me, there's a lot of people on my internet, so things are a little slow to load. Okay, after the event, you fill out the event report, you fill out the NMR sheet, you send that check and the report up to the Exchequer within 10 business days, and everybody is happy. And then the event report to the regional within 30 calendar days. Okay. All right.
Are those normally submitted hard copy or email?
Event reports can be sent via email. We are encouraging all reports at this point, even if they need to be printed and signed, to then be scanned, put into the local group's Google Drive for posterity, and then to be emailed to the regional, so the regional doesn't have paper. Obviously, the check for any non-member registration fees at this point is still paper because we are not allowed to use electronic fund transfers. So that is one piece of paper that will go to the Kingdom Exchequer. But otherwise, okay, everything can be scanned and uploaded.
Lovely.
All right, so monthly reports. This is our bread and butter, okay? This is where local group exchequers spend the bulk of their time. The first piece of this isn't actually a report. The first piece of this is your ledger. Now, in the past, people have used paper ledgers, and that is still an option for very small groups. However, using the Microsoft Excel spreadsheet ledger allows you to import information and keep very accurate information much more easily than a paper ledger, because it tells you everything that you need to put in there so that when you go to do your report, you don't have to go searching for the information again. Okay, so the ledger looks like this. For some reason, the ledger is still in version 3. All the reports that you are using should be updated to version 4 at this point. Okay, so this is your ledger. The name of the branch goes right up there. The year goes right up there. And then if you are a subsidiary, if you are in a subsidiary state. So I am actually going to download this.
Is Illinois?
Yes, Illinois and Michigan are the 2 subsidiaries within the Middle Kingdom.
Okay.
So when it comes to reports, only Illinois and Michigan are subsidiaries in the Middle Kingdom at this point. That means that they do not use the same EIN number as society as a whole. There are other states and other entities that are also subsidiaries. Penzic War is a subsidiary. Pennsylvania, the whole state of Pennsylvania is a subsidiary, even though Pennsylvania is part of Ethelmark, which may or may not be. So it goes on a state-by-state basis. At one point, there was a requirement or a push to register the STA groups in every state tax organization. And that's where that came from. It's no longer required, which is why subsidiaries have really ended, and why we don't have 5 different subsidiary reports to do. We just have 2, plus our very tiny little shire up in Canada, which is a different can of worms altogether. Okay, so I'm going to bring this up in an Excel spreadsheet because Google Sheets, while it will open these forms, you don't get the full functionality. If for some reason you do not have, oops. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes. All right.
Yeah, you had muted yourself for a moment though.
I'm getting a little notification that my speaker's not working. So I just wanted to check. Okay, so these reports are able to be utilized outside of Microsoft. If you have a Mac or if you use a Linux system and you do not use Microsoft, you can use Open Office in order to utilize these reports. Google Sheets does not give you the full functionality for the reports because of the macros in this spreadsheet. Do not go look at the macros. Do not go into the back end of these reports. They will make you crazy. It's not pretty. Okay, so just stay out of them. All right, so to start with, your name of your branch, your year, your subsidiary. It is a drop-down box. These are all the different subsidiaries that we might have. If you're in Ohio, you're not in a subsidiary. Yes, in Harriet.
Are you aware you're no longer sharing the screen?
Nope, I am not aware of that. Thank you. How's that?
It is now shared again.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so here's your subsidiary drop down. We are not in Ohio. We are not in Indiana or Kentucky. So you just hit corporate. Okay, we are corporate. That just means we use the corporate EIN number. Okay, so this is the ledger. You can see you can print the ledger. You can print different quarters. It has different tabs down here at the bottom. This is the summary. You don't have to play in the summary because other than to your starting numbers, okay, for the year. That's it. Because everything else and your starting numbers for this come from your ending numbers in your ledger. Okay. Then as you accumulate transactions, they just line up here. Okay. Back here, you can also, there is a way to create additional accounts if you need to. If you have a savings that you actually have transactions go in and out of, you can do that over here. For the most part, most groups are only going to have one ledger. Okay. Because most groups, even at the kingdom level, right, you're not going to have transactions going in and out of a savings account or in and out of a money market account. So basically your ledger is most of the time going to be just checking. Now over here you see funds. Funds are different pots of money, but they're not different accounts. Okay, so you can have multiple funds coming out of your checking account. They're just ways to categorize expenses so that you know if the money was going to or coming from a specific pool of money. So back when the kingdom did the trailer builds, we had a fund that was created through our financial committee for a trailer build of X amount of money. Okay. All expenses then were tagged as trailer. If we had a fundraiser for the trailer, the income was tagged as trailer. So we knew how much specifically went to that project. Funds should not be necessarily permanent. Okay, there was a 4 years ago when I went to the Exchequer symposium, they told a story about a fund in one of the Western kingdoms that was like a dance guild fund, and monies had been earmarked directly for that fund, so they couldn't be used for anything else ever. The problem was that guild went out of existence, so now there was this money sitting there that could never be touched. So it's just a way to earmark money. Okay. All right. So moving into the ledger proper, It's just like a checkbook register. You don't play with things that are white or green. Well, actually green, yes. No, not. So you put in the date of the transaction. If there's a check number, okay, did it clear, and this clear the bank is for when you're doing your bank rec, okay? Who did you write the check to? Or if you got a check, who wrote it to you? Okay. Any memos or notes? Okay. If there's a transfer, where did it come from? Why did it come from? Okay. Then over here, there's a budget, a separate budget. Say that there's a budget category or an event name. Say that this is the money, like checks were written for reimbursement to the feast steward. And so that's going to the feast for brawl. You can put that right there so you can track that. Then you move over to this other part, and this is, it slides so that you can still have the check number next to you, okay? This is where you put the amount. So $10. You see that $10 goes in as this expense automatically. It's an expense. And then it deducts from your balance, okay? So I'm gonna go back here to my summary, and in my checking, I'm gonna start with $100, okay? Come over here, I write that check, now my balance is $90. And it gives you a running balance.
Okay.
Okay. And it's going to the checking account. If there's a receivable, an inventory item, regalia, depreciable assets, you can put these different things in different places so that when you go to do your report, you hit import and it just drags all of this data over for you so you don't have to figure it out later. As the Kingdom Exchequer, I absolutely used this ledger until we went to QuickBooks. Absolutely. It made my life so much easier. Then you have your income category, if it was income. Okay, so these income categories directly match and line up with the categories in your monthly report. That's why when you hit the import button, it just drags it over and you don't have to figure out anything else. If it's an expense category, same thing. You have a drop-down menu. And you can see these little notations, OA, AR, FR. So remember, in your monthly report, you have 3 different types of expenses. You have organization and organizational or administration. You have activity related, and you have fundraising. And so you would pick which one of those it goes to. But all of the different categories are listed here, even the ones that don't go to those, like other expenses, transfers out. Okay, so if Falcon's Quarry is transferring money to the Kingdom for their non-member registration fee, I do a transfer out to Kingdom. It automatically populates my monthly report when I hit import. So even if you were the tiniest little group, this still makes your life easier. Then your fund. Which fund did it come out of? This particular ledger only has one fund. But if you're working with a large group that has multiple funds, this is where you get to change that pool of money. Okay, same thing if you have, and here's your deposit. So say that wasn't a $10 check or an expense, say this is a $10 deposit. And then you put it in the income category. You can also split them up. So say you write a check and there's different categories. You write one reimbursement check, but that reimbursement check to your fee steward includes supplies, and food. Well, this allows you to put several different categories in one transaction so that you don't have to write multiple lines. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. There's up to, I think, 3 on each line. That's all you do in the ledger. When you're done with quarter 1, you just click on quarter 2. Your balance comes over from quarter 1. So everything is there. There are extra tabs here, like for equipment. And this is a lease, also a lease page. So you have a baronial sunshade. A group within your barony wants to use it for a demo. Okay, here's the description of the piece. How many? When did you acquire it? What's the value? How did you record it? Like, what type of asset is it? Is it inventory? Is it regalia? Is it 5-year depreciable? Is it 7-year depreciable? What is it? Is it signed out right now? And then who's it signed out to? Where is it stored? Okay, so I will use Anhard as a example here. Cloughlan's is one of our largest baronies. They have stuff. They have a separate gold key person, a separate iron key person. They even have a quartermaster because of stuff. So where is that stuff stored? If it's stored, if the gold key is stored at one person's house, you put it there. If half of the, if a sunshade is stored at the seneschal's house, but the list bowls are stored at the marshal's house, you can list all of this information. And then, is that information current? It should be. These should say yes. If there is a line there, it should say yes. Okay, then you never change, you don't remove them from this list. You just put the change in status. This is a good running way to keep track of stuff that you need to keep track of. And then you have your balances. These show up, you know, bank account type. This is the only account in here is checking. It also lists your signatories. So it's filled in here and then it gets imported over to your report as well. And then you have a free form and you can do, like, keep track of other things in your free form. But the ones you're going to use are your ledger tabs, your equipment list, and your signatories. Okay, so that's the ledger. I love the ledger. It makes monthly reporting very, very easy. Okay.
I like easy.
So now it gets picky about which, there we go. Can you see it? All right, so I'm gonna close that. Don't save. Share screen. All right, here we go. All right. I'm gonna back up. Okay, so that was the ledger. Now on to monthly reports. The Middle Kingdom does require monthly reports. Currently, I think we are the only kingdom that requires monthly reports.
Different policies or something related to COVID-19?
Different policies. So every kingdom is required, every group is required to do a monthly bank reconciliation across the known world. We found several years ago that did not provide enough checks and balances, because if you just don't deposit funds, your bank account still balances.
Gotcha.
However, if the seneschal is required to review the income statement and the balance statement every month, they can spot where there might be something missing. Don't be the reason a rule happens. Just saying. Okay, so monthly report. Every month, the Exchequer has to do the bank reconciliation as well as have the seneschal review the first two tabs in the financial report. Okay, I'm going to show you the report in a second. I just want to say that's what you have to do every month. That is then sent electronically to the regional Exchequer for them to check. Okay, preferably it is sent in a PDF format, although since it is not required by society, it can be in an Excel spreadsheet. The reason I say PDF, the IRS recognizes documents that are in a static format, static meaning not easily changed or has the ability to be locked with and can't be unlocked except with great difficulty. So for practical reasons, we consider that a PDF. You can also use like a JPEG file. However, PDFs are much more compressed and much easier to move around. So we prefer a PDF file. If that PDF file is then housed in your local group's Exchequer Google Drive and a copy is sent via email to your regional Exchequer, you have now satisfied the requirement of having a static copy in 2 different places, and that is equivalent of paper. That's what the rules say. And they're not my rules. They're not even the SDA rules. Those are like IRS rules. So that is why now you don't have to print and keep all the paper. You can print, sign, scan, put in the drive, send to your regional, done. Okay. Quarterly, that report must include the entire report. So the bank reconciliation, your income statement, your balance statement, and all of the attendant worksheet tabs that you use. Okay. Records must be kept for 7 years, the same as with any other business or any other entity, in case we were to get audited. Okay. Groups without assets of their own. So incipient groups, and it's mostly incipient or proto-incipient groups where they're not holding their own money yet. They don't have their own bank account yet because they're not a recognized group yet. Whichever group is sponsoring them holds their money. They still have to complete a negative report every month. That is actually part of their binder when they come to Curia to say, hey, make us an official group. I filed my reports on time. If you're not filing a negative report every month like you're supposed to, you have not proven that you are complying with the reporting requirements, which then holds back your ability to become an official group. So please file your reports on time. Okay, so this is what the financial report looks like. And again, I'm going to open it and then I'm going to download it and show it to you. And once again, it is an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, you can access it with Open Office as well as obviously Microsoft Excel. And it does work on Mac and PCs, regardless of which version. All right, so and I'm going to have to reshare my screen because Zoom gets very finicky. Once this opens up, So this should be it. All right, can you see that report?
Yep.
Okay, there are several versions of these reports available to you on the SCA page. And Hard, can you still see the report?
Nope.
Okay. Like I said, it gets finicky.
Yeah, you asked, it was there, and then it almost immediately disappeared.
There we go. Better?
Yes.
Okay. So there are several different versions of these reports. There are 3 different sizes. There's a small report, a medium report, and a large report. Okay. And there are locked versions and unlocked versions. I use the unlocked version because sometimes I need to make adjustments. However, the locked for most local groups is perfect because it allows you to do what you need to do, but does not allow you to do things that are going to throw you off. It doesn't allow you to change formulas. It doesn't, so use the locked reports most of the time. The small reports are for the smallest groups that have nothing except like a checking account. No equipment, no assets. The large report is for groups the size of a kingdom or Cleveland's. So the large report, all they mean, the difference in sizes is literally just the difference in the number of tabs at the bottom of the report. So if you're not going to use, let's see, I think this is the large report. So you can see there are, I'm scrolling over here. There are 17 tabs. Unless you're a kingdom or a very large group, you are never going to use all of those tabs. Okay, you can get away with it. Most groups are going to use the medium report because the medium report does have room for assets that are going to depreciate, like a sunshade or other equipment. It has room. So the medium report is where most of the groups in the Middle Kingdom are going to want to be. All right. Once again, you start from this content page. You fill out the name of the branch. You fill out your seneschal's name. Modern names. These are modern financial reports. Please remember, although this is really no more difficult than your like family checking account, the seneschal and exchequer are the 2 positions within the group that have modern world responsibility. So modern names get used on these unless it says different. And then what year? So I'm going to do this one just, and Elise, forgive me, she's my local group exchequer. I'm just going to go ahead and do this. I'm just going to fill it out.
Modern names?
Oh yeah, thanks. See, this is what happens. I'm in an SCA class and I didn't use modern names. Okay, so there's that one. And then, okay, we'll use my name, which actually wouldn't be allowed because Stephen Tian is my husband. And right, you can't have a seneschal and an exchequer in the same household. Too much opportunity for collusion. Okay, then you put your year and then what quarter it is. And then what kind of report. Everybody, every single group in the entire known world at this point, and I have no idea why there's even a choice here, is cumulative. It has to be cumulative. There are no longer sequential reports. We don't do standalone reports anymore. We only do cumulative reports, meaning that we're going to start with January. And then February's report is going to include everything from January and from February. And that's why the ledger is wonderful, because it takes all of those transactions that you have for that entire quarter and ports them over to your report. So you don't have to do the adding by yourself. You don't have to go through a checkbook and go, okay, so that's this kind of expense, and that's what it was for January. So now I have to add this and this and this. Put it in the ledger, hit import. It makes life a lot simpler. I know I'm being redundant. I don't care. I'm going to say this until every cumulative report, use the ledger. Even if you only have 2 checks a year, use the ledger. Okay. All right. So you can see down here for your monthly, you just hit print TOC, pages 1 through 4. Okay, it's actually 1 through 5, just so you know that. It's your contact info, the primary account, the secondary account, your balance, and your income. Because some of those reports don't have that secondary account tab. Like if you're in a super small report, it doesn't have the secondary account. So make sure that when you go to print, you're actually printing the first 5 pages, not the first 4 pages. That's your monthly, okay? Your quarterly is print pages front to back. It prints every single tab. Will you need every single tab? Will you have information in every single tab? Maybe, maybe not. It doesn't matter. Just hit print pages front to back. It connects then, and you can just print to PDF, right? So you can just print to a PDF, save it, and then send it to your regional. If you need signatures, then you print it to an actual printer. You have your seneschal sign it, you scan it, and you send it to your regional, okay? If you see this little notification, pages 5 and everything beyond 5 will not print if there's no data entered. So don't worry if you don't have anything in tab 10, it's not going to print tab 10 then. It's only going to print the ones you have information in. All right, and then right here, here's the Wonder button. Import from a ledger workbook. You hit that button, and it says this: you are about to import from a ledger form. This may overwrite all unsaved data already in this workbook. It's okay. You want it to, because you've been keeping a running list in your ledger, and it's just going to bring it all over for you. Okay? All right. So these things here turn colors depending on if you've done a good job or if we need to make some changes. All right. So contact info, anything in blue should be filled out. Your warrant date, okay, street address, all of this information. Do you have a deputy? Okay, the deputy's information should be here. Do you have a second deputy? That should be here. All right, that's all that goes in here. Next tab, this is your primary bank account rec. This is your bank reconciliation. Most of the time, this is going to be your primary checking account that you are writing checks out of. So, bank name, ABC Bank. Bank account title, checking. Bank account type, checking. Okay. Bank account number, put it in there. The phone number and name of contact. Okay. Who's my contact? Her name's Lisa. Okay, so I put Lisa's name. I put her phone number. I don't know her phone number off the top of my head. Okay, the statement ending date. Literally, this is the same way you reconcile a bank account. Okay, same thing. So how much, the statement ending date, let's do June 30th, 2020. What was the ending balance? $200. Great. Do you see now this has turned yellow? Okay, because it doesn't see that you are balancing anymore. So you have deposit, date, amount of deposit. There are 6 slots here for deposits. Okay, if there's more, there's another place you can put those, right? Most deposits though, it does, okay, here, let me say this. Your deposits are going to be your entire deposit amount. So if you have an event and you have a stack of 10 checks, you don't have to list the checks individually. You're going to list the total amount of the deposit that you made, period. Okay, that's why there's only 6. So you're not going to list every single check separately. Then your checks, there are more lines here because obviously there might be more checks written than deposits received. You will see that then it changes as you put amounts in here. This will change. You put your register or your ledger balance in there, and if you have imported, it will import it for you. Okay, and then this will turn green if it matches. And again, then here are your signatories. Who is on your bank signature card? This should match your ledger. That page in the ledger should match this. When you print it out, here's where your seneschal signs it, here's where you sign it. Secondary accounts. Do you guys have a savings? If yes, great. ABC Bank. Account number 1234556. Ignore this. Okay. Account type, drop down, checking, savings, CD, money market, other. You are allowed to have interest-bearing accounts. Have a savings. If you have enough money to have a CD, do it. The interest rates are much better on CDs right now. They're better than money markets. Okay. Is it interest-bearing? If it is, say yes, because then what happens is you could just go ahead down here and it'll ask for interest on a different page and it'll help you balance it. Okay, so if you have another account, this is where those accounts get reconciled. That's why I said that most of the time you're not going to have a ledger for your other accounts because you don't have things going in and out and in and out. You may, most of the time, are just going to have like 1 withdrawal or 2 withdrawals. At the most, you might have a deposit and then you're going to have interest. And that gets recorded here. All right, then you come over to the balance. See this start number? That's the number that you got from last year's end. So your December 2019, how much did you have in undeposited and non-interest bearing cash? How much cash? So this is checking accounts, anything that's in cash that you still have like with you, that's that. Interest, cash earning interest, savings accounts, CDs, money markets, that all goes there. You'll see these are all white. That means don't mess with them. Okay, they will get filled in by filling out the other tabs. Newsletter subscriptions due. Ignore it. There is no subscription at this point. Just ignore it. Everything else will populate. At the end of this report, these should be the same. Okay, they will turn colors. Yellow is not good. Green is good. Okay. This is what the seneschal should be looking at along with the income statement. And again, anything white populates from the rest of the tabs in the workbook. All right. So the only thing here, here's your interest earned tab. So if you got 10 cents out of your savings account in interest last month, you put it in there. It then
get more than that right now.
well, right, exactly. You put it there, it goes back here, it pops up in the interest bearing, and everything works together. Okay. These populate from other tabs. Your expenses are going to populate from your ledger if you import it. If you don't, then you have to play calculator math and then fill these in as a cumulative number. So if in January your equipment rental was $10 and then in February your equipment is $10 and this is a February report, that number is going to be 20, not 10. You are adding up all of the months up until the report you are doing. And that goes for all of these. And remember in the ledger, we showed the O&A and the AR and the FR? Same thing here. And that's why using the ledger just populates your numbers. Here's your office and administration. So the Exchequer needs a printer cartridge to print all of the reports. That goes under office and administration. You have expenses for an event or a demo or anything else that's an activity. That goes here. Fundraising goes here. Okay. Anything in white, again, is going to populate from a different tab. Assets. Here's your asset detail worksheet. Okay. Most of the time, you are not going to use this. I very rarely use this. Okay. Prepaid expenses. Here's one place that is getting used right now. If you had an event and say you know you're going to have that event for next year and you already paid it. So in our neck of the woods, let's say it's North Oak and War Maneuvers. They rent porta potties every year. They already paid for the porta potties this year, and the company is allowing them to just roll that over to their expenses for next year. Guess what? That money still belongs to you because the expense hasn't happened yet. So you list that right here. Okay. And that would become a prepaid expense. Then when the company charges you for it, that you put current amount, then 0. And then in the next report, you take it off. It doesn't have to stay there forever. Okay. At the most, it's going to last a year. If it does the funny things for your balance, put it back until the end of the year. All right. And then other assets. Okay. Other assets, just security deposit. A security deposit is not a prepaid expense because prepaid expenses you do not expect to get back. A deposit is a deposit and means you might get it back. That's an other asset, not a prepaid expense. All right. Liabilities, deferred revenue. Again, this is a part that most of you will never use. Okay. So event income that's been collected before the end of the period for an event that will occur after the period. So you do pre-registration. Pre-registration comes in, people send you actual checks and everything. That should be recorded in here as deferred revenue because you're not going to list that as actual income until the event happens.
Okay.
Okay. Payables. Did somebody send you a bill this month and you haven't paid it, so you're going to pay it next month? That's a payable. Technically, that should go there. Okay. A lot of people just don't put anything there. You should actually keep track of these things. Okay. And other liabilities. Then the inventory page. Again, I am sharing the large report with you. An inventory page might not show up on the very small report. On the medium report, I think it does. Most groups don't have something that they keep in inventory that's going to be coming in and going out. And inventory doesn't necessarily mean the things in So like a cook's guild. That's not necessarily what they're talking about here. They're talking about stuff like a group purchasing a large amount of trim, which then their individual members can purchase from the barony. That would get listed here.
Gotcha.
Inventory. Okay. Regalia sales, regalia and other sales. It says regalia sales. They don't actually mean things that you're selling that are regalia. They mean regalia and other sales detail. So your regalia and non-depreciable equipment, regalia does not depreciate. It doesn't. Okay. The crowns don't suddenly become worthless over the course of 5 years. The baronial coronets do not suddenly lose their value after 5 years. So they get listed here. Okay. It is specific up here about what is included. So thrones, no, because thrones have a shelf life, right? Eventually they need to be replaced. Clothing eventually needs to be replaced because it wears out. Even a cloak will wear out, okay? Regalia is defined by what it is, not by who uses it. So these are things that are jewelry, signet rings, swords of state, anything like that that isn't going to wear out. All right? That's where that goes. Even if it's donated, it goes here. All right? Because you see, it doesn't say, like, where'd you get it? It just says year acquired. Start value, value of new item. This is going to increase your asset number. Okay, and then in another place, you will list where it came from. There are ways to offset it. So other sales income. All right, the ones that are not reported as major inventory. Almost, I've never put anything in here. Ever. Assets that are sold. So say there's a 10-year-old tent that the barony owns. They want to sell it. They sell it to someone for $100. There you go. It would have been reported here. So it could have been reported as regalia before, right? And now they're releasing it. Or maybe it was a depreciable asset and they have its value is now has been depreciated. They choose to sell it. It would have been on this. You can see it tells you what is in this 5-year depreciation. Trailers and electronic equipment. That's it. That's what goes under 5-year depreciation. 7-year depreciation down here. All assets except electronic equipment and trailers. Okay? Thrones, pavilions, cooking equipment, all 7-year assets. They go down here. Just fill out the blue. These will all populate for you. All right? That's tab 7. And you can see over here, most people miss this. It's a quarter. So if you put in a throne here, over here you need to say which quarter it was purchased because that affects this calculation of depreciation for the year.
Okay.
Okay. And you can see down here the percent that's going to depreciate. You don't have to do anything with those numbers. They're in the calculations already. They're just given to you there for your knowledge. So you understand what is depreciating at what rate. Okay?
Okay.
Nothing changes with depreciation in this report until the 4th quarter. So if you don't see numbers moving, don't freak out. They're not supposed to until the end of the year. Transfers in. Most groups aren't going to have a transfer in from within the kingdom unless, say, Falcon's Quarry has decided to help out Cleflands with the expenses from Knowne. So Falcons Quarry writes Cleflin's a check. We're both in the same kingdom and we're in the same state.
Subsidiary.
That's what within kingdom means. Or if Falcons Quarry has to write a non-member registration check to the kingdom, it goes in here because it's the same kingdom in the same country, not a subsidiary. Okay. The terms, so this says another SCA, and this is funds transferred outside in the same country. So if, let's say, a group from Illinois sends us a check for some bizarre reason, they're outside of the kingdom technically because it's a subsidiary. That's
Gotcha.
the only part but most of the time this isn't going to happen except in the kingdom. Very rarely happens between groups. Okay. Transfers out. Here's your transfer out within the kingdom. So I'm sending my NMR check up to kingdom. I put it right there. Right. If the kingdom has to send a check to society, or some states were requiring sales tax to be charged on registration fees, so groups had to send the checks for sales tax directly to the SCA, that would have happened here too. So like Oak and Shield in Kentucky would have written a sales tax check to SCA Inc., and that's out of kingdom, but in the same country. So that would have gone there. So, but most of the time, these aren't going to be happening except for non-member registration fees.
Okay.
And those are all going to go right here. Okay. Here's your income tab. Did you have fundraising? Internal, fundraising, external, direct contributions. So these are on a different page. These are donations that somebody just gives you. Okay. Oh, if you have an event that is a voluntary donation event, one, you don't need the non-member registration fees because it's the donations mean that the event didn't actually cost anything, so you can't charge a member registration fee. But all of that money then becomes a donation received without consideration. So you just list that on the income page, and it tells you which worksheet. I'll show it to you. And then if you have demos or activity fees, you can charge for a demo. Groups can charge, say the Boy Scouts want you to come and do a demo, you can charge them. It doesn't even have to be a donation. It can be an actual like fee. It just goes here.
Okay.
Here's your adjusted gross. So you have an event. Remember that whole event form. Here's your gross gate income, refunds, your gross income. It ports back to your balance statement. Done. PayPal. So you have a pre-registration, okay, through PayPal. PayPal, the kingdom then sends you the money that came from the PayPal. That goes right here. That gets sent over. Net advertising income. Do you have, I don't know, a website, a blog, something else where you allow people to put ads? Did they pay you to put the ad? That's what goes there. All right. Other income. Don't fill this in unless you talk to the Kingdom Exchequer. Just don't do it. Okay. This is for bad debts, stale checks, anything like that. Here's that space for the donations. You do not, if it's the donations from an entire event, you do not have to list person A gave me $5 extra for, right? You don't have to do that. It's the donations. If you pass the hat at a meeting, donations, you just put the date received, you put, donations collected at meeting, the reason, and the amount. Done. If you get, these are SCA related, so say the Corey decides to donate $100 towards Knowne, that would go here. Not expenses, just here's a donation. Or if a group decides to donate towards the Royal Travel Fee, right? Royal Travel Fund, that would go here. It's an
Okay.
FBA related donation. Because there's a different place for, those are bad debts. There is a different place in the form that allows you to fill out donations from other 501c3s. So if the Boy Scouts give you a donation, you can put that in there as opposed to a fee. It depends on how they've structured it. Okay, advertising, bad debts, fees and honoraria. You have a speaker come. You pay that speaker to come teach embroidery. That goes here. Okay, you can do these things. Just because we are a 501c3 nonprofit does not mean that people have to give us everything for free. We can pay people for things, and people can pay us for things. All right, here's some expense details. I don't know that I've ever used this. We don't have non-SCA insurance unless, say, your person, say your quartermaster gets a rider on their homeowner's insurance, and you are going to pay that directly. You're going to pay that back to them, which is an allowable expense. That would go there. It's an insurance expense, all right? Don't see this? Contact Kingdom Exchequer before using this other expenses. Everything should fit into one of the other categories. Don't fill this out, okay? And then if you make a donation, say your group wants to donate to your local Boy Scout group, here you go. And here's the federal ID number, all right? Finance committee. Here is and yesterday during our class, we talked about the 3 different possible formats for financial committee. Here they are listed, okay? Here's the one that is only used for very large groups. Kingdom and Cleflands. Financial committee consists of Seneschal, Exchequer, and other specified individuals. Literally, this is only used by our biggest groups because in those groups, it's not feasible to have everyone come to a meeting and vote on an issue. Can you imagine trying to get every member of the Kingdom of the Middle into one place to vote on a financial matter? Never going to happen. All right. And that's what this top one is. That financial committee consists of Seneschal, Exchequer, and all other paid members in the branch. It is impossible to always have a current list of the people in your branch. Even if you ask the SCA Corporation to send you that list, it's going to be outdated by the time that it gets to you and you vote. So we strongly, highly suggest and recommend and plead with you to never choose this top one as your format for a financial committee. All right. Most groups in the Middle Kingdom are going to have the second one. So the Seneschal, the Exchequer, and all other paid members voting at a meeting, a previously announced meeting, okay? And these people are going to show up and you're going to discuss a budget item or something else and everybody's going to vote. That is what most people are going to be, okay? In your financial committee membership, then only these 2 people are named. Only if you have that Seneschal, Exchequer, and other specified individuals are you going to then fill in these blanks. So, Pursuant, Knights Marshal, you're filling in titles of offices. Then you fill out the name. They must be members. Okay, financial committee members, even if it's just all of the members coming to a meeting, if they're gonna vote, they have to be a member. Okay. I know it's not pay to play anymore, right? It's not pay to play when it comes to martial activities. It is pay to vote.
Old hat.
It's kind of how it works. It's the same in any other organization that I belong to, right? I used to be the vice president of the Ohio chapter of the Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf. I can go to a business meeting as a non-member. I can go to my state conference. I can go to the business meeting. I can listen. I cannot vote because I am not a member of that organization. Same here. Okay. Funds. We talked about the funds. This one is filled out. You don't change it because everybody has a general fund. But say you have a travel fund. Whoops, not a rund, a fund. Right? Say you have a guild fund. Right? Then however much money, these are calculations you have to do on your own unless you're importing from the ledger. And I'm not sure if they import or not, but say your general fund is $20,000, right? Then it subtracts any of your expenses and then your general fund goes down. Okay. If you have a $500 travel fund and you pay out $100, then you have to do the calculation here and then put in your ending amount. Okay. Newsletter, don't worry about it because we don't have income anymore from newsletters, right? Everything's electronic, so the newsletters are included unless people are paying the extra fee, but they're not paying it to us, they're paying it to the SCA. And then comments. This is important if you have some random thing happen, or say you remove a prepaid expense that used to be there. Then you would just notate, remove prepaid expense, blah, 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 because, right? Anything, these are your comment section. All right, and then transfers in, this is overflow. So if you have more than is on the first page, you can just go here. No group in the Middle Kingdom is going to ever use this overflow page except the Middle Kingdom. Okay. So same with transfers out. And then a free form again. So that is the monthly report. Okay, most groups by importing into the ledger are going to make from the ledger are going to make their lives very, very easy because, all right, hold on. So you can see me right now, right?
Yep.
Okay. So most people, just by importing, you've made your lives really, really easy, and your work is much more limited than trying to figure, if you keep a paper checkbook and then try to figure everything out. If you want to use a program like Quicken and then transfer numbers, you can. If you're big enough to use QuickBooks, go ahead. Just know then you do have to transfer numbers over. Been there, done that. Okay, let's see. Other reports. Hold on. What happened? So, other reports. For some reason, here we go. All right, can you see my screen?
Annual and semi-annual reports.
Perfect. Okay, so the annual and semi-annual reports, every group is supposed to have a budget. That can literally be as simple as, this is what we pay every month for the rental of our hall. This is what we expect. This is how much we think we're going to get from our event this year. It doesn't have to be complicated. There is a report. It's right here. I'm not going to pull it up because we're running long as it is. But every group should have an annual budget prepared by the Exchequer and then approved by the financial committee. Every 2 years, sorry, that was my dogs pounding down the stairwell. Every 2 years, or at the change of Exchequer, the regional or kingdom exchequer will conduct a review of books. There is a form for it, but it's not a report. And it's not actually a form that you as the local person have to fill out. It is a form, let's see. So I can do this. I don't have to switch the screens, I don't think. This is the budget. It's super easy. You just put in, you know, the different officers for the different things. It's not complicated. The review of books form looks like this. This is actually going to be filled out by the regional exchequer or the kingdom exchequer, depending on who's conducting the review of books. It is not an audit. What I mean by that is the officer is not coming in to try to catch you in something. What it does is it allows the officer to come make sure that everything is following procedure and policy, and then to make recommendations and suggestions of how to better do that if it's not already happening. Okay? It's not there to try to trick you. And it's very simple. It just goes through review of books, and it's questions. Yes and no, yes and no, yes and no, yes and no. That's it. If it's a no, then it's just something to go into the suggestion box about how to fix it. Okay. There's 3 tabs. It looks really long, but it actually it's pretty quickly. And you don't have to have paper for this anymore. As long as you have access to your Google Drive, and again, reasons to use the Google Drive and upload everything, and to keep track of, and to use the official emails to keep track of your communications, because that's another thing. Like, do you have documentation of communications with different groups or with your regional saying that you've done these things? So these are all reasons to use those official, the Drive, the Gmail, so that you can keep track of everything for posterity, for your incoming successor, or for this type of review of books. Okay, then contact information, and that's it. Honestly, even as Kingdom, when I had mine done, it didn't last more than 30 to 45 minutes. A recommendation was made, we fixed it, and we moved on. Okay.
Cool.
Other forms, advance requests, reimbursement requests, letters of donation. So if somebody does want to make a donation, you go ahead and give them this letter. You ask them to fill it out. You get it back. You can scan it and keep it in your Google Drive. And this provides that, you know, item description and condition. Most of the time, this is not for money. This is more for an item. So say somebody decides to sponsor and can donate a new set of baronial cornets. That description goes here. Here's your fair market value. And this is printable. This is not fillable, so that someone can print this, but then you can scan it and put it right up into your Google Drive. And then that informs your asset report. Reimbursement requests. The fee steward has, you know, a list of receipts that they have purchased items in order to do the feast. They then submit this reimbursement voucher, the group name, the requester's modern name, the expenses for what event, who is the check made payable to, address, all of the information, receipt 1, 2, 3, what does it go under, done. They print it out, they sign it. You then write the check number, the amount, and the date of the check that it was given to them, scan it, put it back in your Google Drive. Specific officers that aren't related to an event may have a form that looks like this. Okay, so it might have an event name, it might not, might have an event date, might not, requesting office. Okay, so this is more of a general form. This is the one that I generally use for travel fund or for the members of the Curia that had different reimbursements, because they could put their receipts, they could put these in and it tallies it up. You can use either form for those reimbursement requests.
Okay.
And then your lease of equipment. I know that the ledger has the equipment sheet, but that's more of a running tally. Right? So that's information. This is a lease agreement. It can be modified using Adobe Acrobat to, insert, or you can just write on it the piece of equipment. Then you have an actual signature from the person leasing the equipment or borrowing the equipment if it's a $0 lease, so that you have something for your records and to fall back on in case the property isn't returned. These are things that are not usually used. And that's it. So, and Hard, I know you have a question, but we'll look at that together after I stop the recording. And then I want to thank everybody for attending class, and I'm sorry that there were technical difficulties. This video will be posted as soon as possible. And if you do have any questions about reports, please contact your regional Exchequer. They can be contacted at their regional Exchequer Gmail account, which is on the website on the Middle Kingdom Exchequer page. Or you can just use the name of the region you are in, .exchequer@midrealm.org. So here in Ohio, that would, or in Northern Ohio, it would be North Oaken, all one word, no capitals, .exchequer@midrealm.org. Okay, if you have any questions about training or education, please reach out to me at deputyexchequer@midrealm.org, and I would be happy to work with you. I hope everybody felt that this was informative, and if you have any other requests for trainings and training videos, please let me know. Thanks again. Have a good night.